me to nut up or shut up. For those of you who do not know, for my senior capstone, I wrote a short story which was a reimagining of the Snow White fairy tale in all my glory. And what I decided I wanted to do was expand this short story into a full-length fantasy novel. And so this summer, my goal was to have a portion of it finished. However, due to looking to find a job and overall just post-graduation blues, I have not been able to accomplish what I wanted to in the allotted amount of time. However, I have come to realize that my procrastination comes from the fact that I have to give myself deadlines, but I also have to face consequences if I don't deliver. And one of the biggest things that make me feel disappointed is if I let down you guys. So what I decided to do is I am going to vlog about my progress. I won't be giving details or specifics, but what I decided to do is that since already I talk about, writing from just a conceptual standpoint, I want to now talk from an actual of what I do, so I can show you guys how I put something together and maybe see if things are different when you're not just thinking about it. Because like I said in my Mary Sue Reboot video, you have to start writing. And so time for me to practice what I preach and to actually start writing. I actually have quite a few stuff done for the project already because it's, I got to do the short story format, which was very interesting to see where it came from, where it's just an idea to how I'm mapping it out now for a full-length novel. First of all, it's the whole thing of, expanding upon things, but also deciding what needs to be expanded upon and what doesn't want to have to be expanded upon. Just because you can have more length, have a longer book, doesn't mean you should necessarily stuff it with everything you can put into it. It's important to realize how to trim, add on, and also recognize your audience. If this is going to be your first ever manuscript, your first ever novel, you should write longer, but also know you have to cut a lot. You have to know what are the spectrums for the kind of book you are producing. Now, for the kind of novel that I would be producing, what I see for fantasy of the type that I'm doing is around 90K, which is 90,000 words. This is my Bible for this series. What I decided I like to do is that first of all, I'm a notebook whore. I admit this, I have a problem. I love pretty notebooks. I love having this kind of organization kind of thing, so I know where everything is. So what I decided to do was I bought this book at Barnes & Noble. It's a blank notebook, so it's blank sheets. I already started writing in some of it, but I won't show you that. But just basically the idea. I have this notebook, and basically this is going to be my guide for everything. I'm going to put in all the information that I need for my world building, for my characters, so I have a overall idea of where I'm going with everything. I already have my short story, but I feel like just because I have that doesn't mean that it can't change. And I've already changed a lot of things that I already had from before. So those who did read my short story, it's very different now than what it was before, and it's going to have a lot more information in it than it did before. But basically what I decided to do with this is that, so I bought this regular blank notebook. I bought blank instead of lined because I wanted to be able to not be confined by the margins. I wanted to be able to write into the little squeezes in between and fill up as much as I could. And I felt like when I have lines, I have this need for neatness. I want everything to be perfect, perfectly lined up. It's taken me a long time to be one of those people who can feel comfortable just crossing out things. I used to only write with erasable pens because I want to be able to erase it, but then erasable pens are horrible at erasing, so that's annoying. But what I ended up doing was I bought this blank notebook and I arranged everything by color. Just the basics for now, but it'll change as I go along. But so what I have here is that I have purple for characters, green for the basic world building, which is going to be geography, culture, and history, pink, no, that's black, black for the plot, blue for the chapters, and then red for the edits. And basically the edits is basically anything that changes after I've already written it, which I've already had to do slightly. Here for one of the characters, I changed the age that something was supposed to happen to them, so I crossed it out and rewrote it in red. So that's basically what this notebook is for. It's for me to keep track of things, to keep track of changes and edits. For example, when I get into like the chapter section, I'm going to write an outline of what I want the chapter to, basically the important things that this chapter needs to have. And then if it changes, if I decide while I'm writing I don't want this to happen, I want something else to happen, or if it organically changes, because that's one thing that happens, like you can have a plan for a character, for an arc, but organically as you start creating, it may decide, no, I want to go somewhere totally different. That's what this red pen is for. This red pen is for all those changes, all those alterations that I know is going to happen and has already happened. And so that's what this notebook is for. I think it's handy. I think that while I can have it on the computer, there's just something I like about having it tangible, having it be something that I can flip to. And having it color coded is just something that's like my own kind of needs organizationally, is to have everything kind of in its own spot. And I've tried to write it out and type it, but I always feel like it's not the same. I like to write things out. However, if you prefer to have it on your computer, that's fine. And some people say, would you rather just write it out as you go along, or, you know, plot it out? For me, I like to plot it out. I think either way is fine, as long as you have an idea of where you're going. But for me, I see so often what happens when people start off with one idea and it grows, but then they also forget certain things. So I like to be like and keep track. I like continuity. One of the biggest things I'll always piss on other shows or other mediums is the lack of continuity within their work. And so it's important for me to make sure that I have continuity so that I know exactly what's going on, because what my plan is to do for this is to go through the first draft and not really self-edit it a lot until I'm done. Because one of the big things that happens when you self-edit is that you get stuck. You get stuck trying to fix every chapter, make it perfect before you actually finish the piece and can look at it collectively. And I think that my experience from writing my capstone and my first draft is learning that I have to let go and just let loose on the page and then slowly come back to it. So what my whole thing is that I need to have some sort of guide. So that's why I need this. However, some people don't need the guide. But I just feel like if I'm not going to be doing my self-checking constantly, if I'm not going to be going back constantly, I need to have some way to be able to look and be like, what age was this character when this happened to them? And be able to look to it, point to it, and be like, there it is. That way I know. And I think it's also good because it won't get mixing with anything. It's just one book for one thing. And so my goal is that every Sunday at around this same time, I will be posting a video letting you know weekly what's going on with my piece. So this is the first thing, just giving you an idea of what I'm doing, what the plan is. So hopefully by the time that I meet with you again, I will be done pretty much filling out up to the plot. I want to be done with the world building, the outline of the world building. Just keep in mind this, I'm not going to try and write the perfect book in one sitting. You can't do it. You need editing. You need to be able to accept that you cannot create perfection, usually first time around. So this is just to give a rough idea of what I want to do, and it can grow, hence red pen. And the blank pages where there are no lines, and since there are no lines I can write outside the lines. And so by the time we get back, I will be able to talk to you about how I write my characters and write world building, to give you an idea of what works best for me. So that's something to look forward to next week, and also letting you know how far I've gone with actually writing the piece, because the goal is to get to writing. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I also want to make sure I give it the consideration that it needs, because it's important to not get too caught up in this. This has been my problem for most of my writing life, that I get so caught up in wanting it to be technically perfect, in detail-oriented perfect, that I forget I actually have to write this. So at the end of the day, what's important is me getting this bad boy written so that I can share it with the world, and maybe someone will actually like it. So we'll see what's going on, and as we get more into it, you'll find out more about it, and it'll just be fun for everyone. So I'll see you guys later, and we'll have an update for this next week on top of all the other stuff I have planned for you guys. So exciting!